Hey guys, so my original intention when making this video was to record gameplay separate from the stream, remove all of my overlays and whatnot, and just record some gameplay specific to what I was talking about when I was giving my honest review of Blackout and making my different points for the pros and cons, so you would have a visual aid to kind of follow along with and see for yourself what I was talking about. But with my stream schedule and team practice, I just kind of never got around to it. And I actually leave for a tournament today, so I was pressed for time, and I wanted just to get the video out there because I wanted to make the video, and the game itself releases in 15 days, so I kind of had to do it quick. But because of this, I'm using stream clips, and I had to remove the audio from the stream, otherwise it would just be me talking over myself talking on the stream, so there's no in-game audio, which is unfortunate, but just kind of a result of the circumstances. But I hope the video is still acceptable, and thank you guys for watching. So I just want to apologize in advance for the audio quality of this video. My PC fans are particularly loud and I don't have a very good setup for recording audio, but I'm going to do my best to minimize the background noise when I'm putting the video together. And I'm also going to be improving my audio setup in the future with some acoustic foam and other things like that. But let's hop right into the video. So I played the first beta for Black Ops 4 and I immediately felt potential and was already considering pre-ordering the game. And then upon playing the Blackout Beta, it kind of solidified my decision within the first few hours. I've had that COD itch for a while, and it seems like Treyarch is finally delivering a good PC COD. It's, we're going to get dedicated servers. It's going to be on Battle.net, and Blizzard's providing the servers, and I think this is going to be the first COD with dedicated servers since Call of Duty 4. We're going to have a nice anti-cheat, and as far as how the game runs, we're mostly going to be talking about Blackout in this whole video, but the game, even playing the traditional multiplayer game modes in the first Black Ops beta, the game felt smooth and it ran well. But talking about the Blackout beta, the game had an artificial FPS cap of 90 on PC for the beta, but it still felt smooth and it ran well. I was messing with the video settings, I went down to medium and then I maxed everything, and honestly, I was near the FPS cap the entire time, and that's with streaming at the same time. And I think they've already acknowledged that they're planning to have uncapped frame rate upon release, so that's a plus. Really, they're being very open about the development of the game, especially for PC, and they've stated that they have very good intentions when it comes to PC. They want to make it as customizable as possible for PC players. They basically are finally giving PC the attention that I think it deserves, because honestly, PC Call of Duty has kind of been dead. Console is the big market, but it seems like it's coming back and with a vengeance. I had about 21, a little over 20 hours of game time just on the Blackout beta. I played the whole weekend that the PC beta was out. So I feel like I have a pretty good, experience, at least, so I can give you my honest opinion on Blackout and if I think it'll be successful, and pros and cons, things I liked, didn't like, things I think should be changed before release, etc. So first we're going to talk about my general observations and the pros, the things that I liked about the game. So we'll do a quick recap of things I already said: dedicated servers, a decent anti-cheat. Even with the FPS cap during the beta, the game still ran extremely well and felt super smooth, and they've already said that there will be uncapped frame rate upon release. So moving on from that, the game is fast-paced in all aspects. You move relatively quickly, there's a sliding mechanic, you can do practically anything on the move, you can heal, switch out equipment, there's very few times in the game that you really have to stop, aside from reviving a teammate or looting. Other than that, it's very fast. So we're going to start with dropping into the map itself, and as I kind of explain some things, you'll understand how the game lends itself to very fast gameplay besides just the fast mechanics and things like that. So right off the bat, from the get-go, the guns that you pick up on the ground are already loaded and ready to shoot. This means you don't have to pick up a weapon, pick up the ammunition, load the ammunition into the weapon. No, you pick up the weapon and the ammunition, but the gun itself is already loaded. So right out the drop, you're dropping in a highly populated area, you pick up a gun, you can get right into a gunfight right away, and you're not going to die because someone else found a gun before you and reloaded it faster. Another thing is that guns tend to be spread out pretty well all across the map, I found. I died very few times during the beginning of a game after landing due to not having a gun. More so losing a gunfight or, fighting someone and killing them and then, getting third-partied by another player who ran towards the gunfire and, caught me low on HP or something like that. And talking about the dropping, There's a very varied landscape in this game, which means there's all sorts of different locations with different aesthetics, as well as terrain that you can choose to drop. And a lot of the time you have to change your approach to combat based on the environment you're in also, which is, really cool. There's very vertical environments such as the construction site, or environments with lots of different buildings, or there's a desert area, all sorts of stuff. The map also does a very good job of spreading people out after the drop. There was very few times I dropped somewhere and didn't encounter at least one other player, in my area that I had to fight for control of all the loot there and things like that, which I find kind of leads itself to this very little downtime I found in this game. Compared to PUBG, where if you drop in a less populated area of the map, you could spend the next 10 to 15, whatever minutes just looting and driving around or running and just looking for some action. There are, of course, downtimes in this game. It's inevitable, but I found that they were less frequent and a lot shorter than the typical downtime you might find in a game like PUBG. One cool note is that what they've done on this Blackout map, which as far as I know doesn't have a name yet, they've included all sorts of different actual older maps from the multiplayer game modes of Call of Duty in the Battle Royale map itself. So there's Array over at the north side of the map. There's pretty much the whole map of Raid, and just stuff like that, which is, it's really cool to see if you are a former Call of Duty player or you recognize the maps. It's just pretty awesome. Next, we're going to talk about the dynamic of play and combat. One thing I really liked was the diversity of equipment and attachments, and also the perk system. So first we'll talk about equipment. There's lethal and non-lethal equipment, grenades, flashbangs, a grappling hook, which is sick, by the way, portable shields, etc. There's all sorts of different things that change how you approach fights and how people have to approach fights versus you if you happen to have this equipment. And then the perk system. The perk system, basically, perks are just items you pick up on the ground with temporary effects. So most of them have one-time use. I think a few of them might have two-time uses. And if I remember correctly, they typically last like 240 seconds. So some perks reduce the time that it takes to revive a teammate or heal. There's perks from Call of Duty games such as Dead Silence, which causes you to run pretty much silently, which, to be honest, in a Battle Royale game might be a little too much. I heard other players complaining that it was a little bit overpowered, but you get the idea. And it was really fun using all the different equipment and kind of just, you could approach fights how you want. Just one last note about the different equipment and grenades and whatnot in the game is that it really gives you different alternatives to approach fights based on circumstances. So let's say there's people camping in a house and you want to charge it. Rather than the typical Battle Royale approach of either chucking, nades and whatnot through windows, hoping, you do some damage or get a lucky kill or a down, and then having to just work your way up from floor one. And typically a lot of these fights just end up in favor of who's in the building simply because they have better positioning. They're just holding the stairs. You can throw all sorts of flashbangs and grenades and incendiaries through windows. You can grapple hook up to the second floor. It just really gives you a lot of different options if you choose to take those types of fights. Now, I want to talk about the vehicles. In the beta, there was 4 vehicles, and I'm pretty sure that they intend the game to have 4 vehicles at launch. One of the developers said something along the lines of they wanted the beta to be the full experience of the game, so they weren't really holding anything out that would be put in later at launch. So there's a cargo truck where players can stand in the back and shoot, and I literally mean stand in the back. You can move around completely freely on the bed of the truck. There isn't just a slot that you could put into that you can't move. There's an ATV which seats 2 people. There's a helicopter that you can also sit on the edge of and fire out of while it's being piloted. And there's a boat. I'd want to give Treyarch some props. I think the vehicle mechanics work really well. The helicopter, I just imagine what a helicopter would be like if, they were to put one in PUBG. They all work very, intuitively. It's easy to fly. It's nothing like Battlefield. I remember the first time I tried to fly a jet in Battlefield, I think I immediately nosedived into the ground and exploded. But anyways, now that we've talked about the pros and the things that I liked about the game, let's talk about some of the cons, the things that I think need balancing or tweaking before launch. Of course, we have to first talk about the armor balancing. And if you played the Blackout Beta, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. The base health that you start with is 150. You can increase this to the maximum health of 200 with the use of a medical item called a trauma kit. And there are 3 levels of armor, levels 1, 2, and 3. Now, I really have no issues with level 1 and 2, but it's really level 3 armor where the talk about balancing needs to be had. Now, they actually already applied a hotfix during the beta itself with a nerf to the spawn rate of level 3 armor and some other things. You can go read the post-beta post on the Black Ops 4 Reddit. I will put it in the description where they talk about all the different things they plan on addressing before launch. And I think that this is great. Treyarch is listening to people, listening to feedback, and making the appropriate changes to the game. Now, to talk about level 3 armor really quickly, I'm just going to talk about the fact that it was, in my opinion, just kind of flat out overpowered, at least before the nerf. I watched people level 3 armor absorb, 20 bullets. They just soaked it, and then they would turn around and, they would kill you. And a lot of the time, it didn't come down to who had the advantage in the gunfight, or who had a better shot. It just came down to, if they had level 3 armor or not. And the main problem is they're making balances to the armor, and I understand it, but I don't think that they're approaching it the right way. I think that they need to evaluate it from the perspective of not punishing people for wanting to take fights, particularly middle to end game. This is the problem. Not once when I killed somebody did I ever find armor on their body to loot. Every single time I got into an engagement, if I won it, their armor was broken. And herein lies the problem. It's extremely hard to find armor later into the game, and this gives no incentive to people to go take fights. I mean, typically in a Battle Royale game, you should be better off if you win a gunfight because you get to loot their body and take their meds and everything else. But if you take a gunfight, even if you win it, they've probably broken your armor if they hit, a decent amount of shots, and then you go over to their body and there's no armor to loot. And I understand the necessity of armor in a Battle Royale game, especially, a Call of Duty game, but they need to somehow make this where there's a percentage of their armor, there's some durability left that you can loot after fighting. I don't know exactly what the solution is, but it gives this huge advantage to people who decide to hold on to their level 3 armor and go hold themselves up in a building until late in the game where the circle is smaller, and now they can come out and they just have an inherent advantage over every other player regardless of actual skill. So this could use some reapproaching. I hope that they really listen to the community because a lot of people have suggested this type of change. And I don't think it's necessarily the balancing of, damage reduction or spawn rate with the armor. It's more about the giving players an incentive to go take gunfights, especially mid to late game, because you shouldn't be worse off after winning a fight and looting someone's body. I mean, that's my opinion. Next, we're going to move on to the inventory. I think the inventory is probably one of the weakest parts of this game. It's a little bit convoluted and could really use some quality of life fixes before launch. A lot of small things. One of them, I think, is being able to move your weapons between slots 1 and 2 so you can have them in whichever order you'd like. The only way to do that currently is to drop both on the ground and then to pick them up in the order you'd like to switch them in. Some people have also suggested them adding an auto, ammo pickup or an auto med pickup because you're never not going to pick up meds if you have space, and ammo doesn't even take up space in your inventory. It goes into a completely separate category. The next thing I'd like to talk about is that there's just tends to be a lot of particles floating through the air and kind of random textures you'll see in the distance that look like other players. It's just kind of unnecessary and something that doesn't really add anything for me that they could maybe remove or at least change. There is some crashes during the beta and issues where people joining other people's lobbies to party up, but I don't really fault them. It's a beta and I expected those types of problems, and I'm sure that they'll be fixed and cleaned up before launch. The other thing I want to talk about is the level of muzzle flash when shooting your weapon, and also there's this red flash that comes with getting hit along with a crazy amount of aim punch. A lot of the time when you get into a gunfight, it becomes impossible to track players with this combination of muzzle flash, the red screen flash when you take damage, and the aim punch. Maybe just tone it down a little bit. I don't know exactly how to balance it out, but I found myself having problems with the combination of all three of these multiple times. Now, like we said before, the game is fast. Everything about it, the movement, picking up gear, it's fast, but it feels very fluid, which is really nice. But I think sometimes it's a little too fast, and maybe they need to kind of nerf a few things. For instance, the revival speed. I don't know the actual time, but it feels like it probably takes about 3 seconds to revive your teammate. I mean, you can first aid, which is the lowest level of meds. You can first aid in 1 second, it heals you for 25. You can medkit in 2 seconds, which heals you for 50. And then the trauma kit you can use in 3 seconds. It will heal you to full, but also it will just give you 200 health. And it's like everything is so quickly that a lot of the time there's almost no con reviving your teammate. You know, in almost every circumstance, there's very little advantage if you down someone and then try to rush them, because by the time you get there, they've probably already revived their teammate and their teammate is healed, you know, obviously, unless you're extremely close. But I think they maybe need to kind of maybe just make reviving take a little bit longer or something else. Something I actually forgot about till right now is a lot of people in requesting is maybe make it a little bit easier to loot and move around, because you can barely loot right now and move, or else you'll get taken out of the loot menu. You can, I mean, barely, like you can almost not even jiggle like left and right. Maybe give people a little bit more freedom. You know, I know, for instance, in PUBG, when you're looting, you can kind of, you know, strafe around and things like that. I think one of the problems is right now when you loot, it opens up basically a looting menu with slots showing you everything that they have in their inventory, compared to a lot of other battle royale games where you can see what you can loot in your proximity and continue moving around. Maybe they might add something like that that would make it a little bit more convenient to looting, because a lot of the time, I mean, there was games where I had 7 or 8, you know, kills or something, and I would kill someone late into the game and I would go to loot their body, and I'm just like a sitting duck, and I would die to someone with a sniper rifle farther away because I can't move at all while I'm looting the body. Other than that, there's not really many things to pick on. If I was to be really picky, I would say that the ending screen is a little lackluster. You know, when you win a game, I mean, that's probably one of the least important things to have, you know, nice and polished in the beta, but maybe it could use a little work. Other than that, I thought the beta was really fun. These are just small little changes, and some of these I'm being particularly nitpicky with, but I think that, you know, as they continue to develop and change the game, that it'll be great. I mean, I had already thought that I was going to be buying it just playing the multiplayer beta, but after playing Blackout Beta, I have already pre-ordered the game. I like how proactive Treyarch is being. I mean, they applied a hotfix mid-beta to some complaints people had. I don't know the last time I've seen that. As soon as the beta ended, they made a post on the Reddit acknowledging all these different things that people had submitted feedback, and that's the point of a beta, right? Is for them to make the game as polished and as balanced and as, you know, as clean as possible by the time of release. And based on their current trajectory, I think the game is going to be huge. I think, you know, people might complain about the $60 price tag for a battle royale game, but the thing is, you're paying $60 for the battle royale game, the Call of Duty multiplayer itself, and zombies. So I mean, really, this is probably the first time in a while that a lot of people might be able to justify spending $60 on a Call of Duty game, because you're actually, you know, you're getting a lot for what you're paying. I'm definitely gonna buy the game. A lot of people are comparing it to PUBG, saying it's, you know, it's a more polished and a much more fluid feeling PUBG, but I mean, I guess you can say that, but the game really plays way different than PUBG. I had a lot of fun during the beta. I think it's probably going to be my secondary game next to CS. You'll probably see me playing a lot on stream, and maybe I'll even make some YouTube videos about it. But that's it. Just wanted to give you guys my 2 cents basically on Blackout, and I think the game is going to be huge just based off the reception of the beta and how excited people are for the release, and how people are already fiending to play it again. I mean, the day after the beta ended, my entire Twitter feed was, why does it have to take so long to release? Why couldn't they extend the beta, you know? So I'm excited. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments what you thought about the beta, you know, what kind of things you think they need to change, or maybe if you disagree with some of my opinions. And other than that, thank you very much for watching. Hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I will catch you later. Oh. Ooh, easy for your boy. Gun. Give me the auto shotgun. Oh wait. Hold on. I can't put that on the auto shotgun. Nice level 3 armor, idiot! Okay. Some meds.
I got medkits. Here.
Wait, just okay, some bandages there. I was gonna snag.
Oh, I'm getting shot from outside. No, the tree northwest.
Yeah, I see him.
2 guys. Good luck. I'm safe right now. They can't shoot me.
I got zombies on my ass.
Circle collapse imminent.
These zombies take so many bullets.
Oh no, dude. Oh, nice. I believe, dude.
Oh, he's pushing in.
Ooh, trauma kit. Oh my god, you murked that guy. Did you down him?
No.
Oh!
I killed him with the molly!
Let's go!
What the fuck? Oh my god.
Another team at the rocks. Oh, that's a headshot.
Yeet!
He just throws a fucking dagger.
Sensor dart.
Oh my god, dude. Relyks is in there. He's
Christ.
insane!